And they are speaking of representation in government and equality of mankind. So I could not contain myself in wanting to come to America. So thus I did.
We're very lucky to have you.
You honor me so, madame. I thank you.
Yes, thank you for your time.
A pleasure.
Right here, this is the reconstruction. This is the archaeological thing of 1930. So we are going into a reconstructed building. Are you aware of that already? A photograph of us digging up the palace itself. This is actually a drawing that Thomas Jefferson made when he was the governor. You might have noticed him here. Did anyone want to take a closer look at some of the pictures? You can see the Revolution. We elected a governor who was very outspoken here in Virginia. You know who he is? Talked a lot and very loud. Patrick Henry is, yes, very good. I was going to give you little hints. Patrick Henry is our governor for 3 terms. They're each a year, so not that long, but then he has a term limit, so he can't run anymore. And so then Thomas Jefferson becomes governor of Virginia. And in 1779, he measures out the inside and has a very good drawing of what the entire palace looks like, so we can use that for the reconstruction. But in 1780, he will encourage us to move the capital to Richmond. So the building won't be in use anymore after 1780 for a governor's residence. It's completely empty, and so they use it after the Battle of Yorktown as a soldier's hospital, and it burns to the ground 1 month later. But we've reconstructed it, and it's actually been here since 1934 and open to the public. So if you count the years, it's actually been here longer as a reconstruction than it was as the original palace, because it was started in 1705, but they didn't complete it till about 1720. And that includes all the buildings on this on these grounds. They will have completed all of them except for that section you see at the back of the drawing, which is the ballroom and the supper room that we'll also be viewing. And that won't be constructed until 1750, and that is Robert Dinwiddie who's in charge of that on the left there. And next to him is Francis Fauquier, who was the governor after the French and Indian Wars. And if you look at the map here, this will give you a good idea of what war we're fighting, because this is going to be very important to my discussion, is this war. So here we have a wonderful map of the colonies of Great Britain, right? Mm-hmm. So does it look familiar to anyone? No, some of you now are Virginians, perhaps, and you were before when you walked in here. All right, so this is a map of the British king, and then if the French king was making a map in 1747, he had a map, he called it Louisiana, and it went the whole way to here. Do you see a problem that might start a war? So this is the 1750s, and that war will be called the French and Indian Wars here. So we'll be talking about that. And we'll also be talking about the period during just before and during the Revolution. So we have Lord Botetourt here, who arrives, and then after him, he's about 2 years here, Lord Dunmore in the middle. So now I've introduced you to everyone. It's time for us to go inside. So if you're not vaccinated, please wear your masks over your nose and mouth. Well, no, this is much earlier. The building is completed by about 1720. We're talking about a much earlier time period. So before the Revolution starts, early 18th century. All right, so yes, so we have some issues with Native Americans, but at this point, by the time Alexander Spotswood, that big portrait that you saw in the other room, by the time he arrives here in 1710, his main purpose is negotiating treaties or diplomacy with the Native Americans. Diplomacy up to the point, actually, where he makes arrangements to start the first school to teach the Indian chiefs' sons, and they will eventually set up a school, a permanent school, at the College of William and Mary during his time, called the Brafferton. That building is still standing today. So who else is he defending this colony from? What did the map tell you might be happening? The French, yes, indeed. So he has to make sure that the French are impressed by our weaponry. We have a large stock of weapons. In fact, over 700 weapons were stored in the palace at one time or another. And they won't be actually completely removed out of the palace, and the additional magazine, which Alexander Spotswood designs this beautiful magazine for gunpowder and weapons. Most of the weapons are stored there. Has anyone seen that yet today, that original building? This octagonal building? No, okay, we'll definitely go out and see that. We have 88 original structures, and that's one of our finest. So please go take a look at that. He designs that and has that built for the weapons to be stored. And the weapons actually are sent out right before or during the French and Indian Wars. They will be taken out of the palace, and then they're returned. Into the dining room here on your right, and then proceed into the ballroom. So I see all of you have on your finest clothes, and you've been invited to the ball. Then you must be the upper 2% of society. And you must come in couples because you're going to dance when you're here. And you will enter in order of precedence. So the most important people will enter first. Probably the governor and his wife.
It's got to be a bar.
Right here. Alexander Spotswood. Here to Virginia. What are the three responsibilities? He is supposed to be the chief executive for defense. Yes. Okay. So he's supposed to be. He's good at that. He's actually fought in the war on both sides. He was on the side of Bonnie Prince Charlie, and then with his dad, and then he switched over to the other side. Luckily, that was the winning side. So he's been in the military. He knows what he's doing. When we have some Indian skirmishes out there, the Shawnee are giving us problems. The other side of the mountains, he goes and gets a treaty there. So, you know, he's doing his job of defense, except that he has said when he arrived here that if the people here are causing problems, he knows exactly what to do about them. He says all you have to do is threaten them with their slaves, and they will do exactly what he tells them. And eventually he does say he's going to free their slaves and arm them and burn the city to ashes. Is he still chief executive in charge of their defense? Now that you see, they might break into the problem where he has to defend himself against the patriots. By 1775, that's exactly what he's doing. He is fighting against them. And he will not succeed, as we know, but he will eventually be sent down to the Bahamas to be the governor of the Bahamas.
Oh, wow.
He gets to stay governor. Gets a hotter place than Virginia, but he ends up. So that's the end of our tour of the palace.